Hey there everyone, welcome back to the Game Vault for another video. This is going to go way outside of our normal realm of what we talk about here. Let's just get right to it. For those of you in the know, a gentleman by the name of Charlie Kirk was taken from us today. He was murdered. Leader of Turning Point USA, which was a big, powerful conservative movement here in the United States. It was also in the UK. It's a movement that helps reach the youth of our nation. One of the most positive things that Charlie would do. He would go to various schools, universities, and hold debates there. And he debated with class and dignity. He never, even when he was debating the most vile of opponents, and there were plenty of them that just would attack him and just completely have no clue what they were talking about, he would do his best to treat them with basic human respect and let them walk away with as much dignity as they could muster on their own. He wasn't one to crush you when you were down or to crap all over you if you didn't know what you were talking about. He would debate what you wanted to debate. He would concede if you had some valid points. He would concede that, hey, yes, I understand where you're coming from, and I do believe that's another discussion or whatever. But he was able to, stay on topic. He was able to hold discussions with people, make people think. And he was taken from us today because of his political views. Now we don't know who the shooter is at the time that I'm filming this. I just got the news myself maybe an hour or so ago, my wife and I, and we're both devastated. We're both big opponents of Charlie. We both appreciate the work that he does. I enjoy watching him on YouTube and his debates and all that. He is somebody to admire and look up to if you ever want to enter the political arena or ever do anything that involves debating. Watch Charlie Kirk. He's a masterclass on it. He didn't go to college. He self-taught, self-made. He was a father. He was a husband. He was a good man. He was a leader. And he was probably one of the most important people in conservative politics that doesn't hold an office and never has held an office, right? He worked outside of the machine, and he was just amazing. I've seen the vile responses, and that's what I want to tie this in with. Is we've talked about culture here on this channel, especially how it relates to video games, and how left-wing culture is dying in the video game realm. It's dying in the movie realm. You're watching in real time as all of these weird things that have been pushed upon us and forced upon us for years are now going away. They're dying slow, miserable deaths. We're watching companies stop celebrating Pride during June, which is foolish in the first place, and that has nothing to do against gay people or whatever, right? That has to do with celebrating somebody because of what they do in the bedroom. Who cares? Don't get a month for that. That's stupid. You shouldn't even get a day for that. It's stupid, right? All these divisive movements, the Black Lives Matter movement, right? Look how that's fallen apart. Didn't the leader just get shot and killed? The guy who helped create it, Michael Brown's friend or whatever. There's 3 women that were kind of running it, and they made millions off of it and bought houses everywhere and all that. It was one of the biggest scams in the history of this country. And everybody just bought it up and ate it up. Like, oh, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Nobody ever said they didn't, right? No one ever said they didn't. But if you said all lives matter or white lives matter, people lost their minds. And again, it's that divisive bullshit that's being spread all over this country and is creating such a hateful realm that we get something like this happen today where Charlie Kirk gets murdered in cold blood. Now, they haven't caught the guy yet. I saw a picture of a guy in custody. He looks to be a man probably in his 60s, maybe even a little bit older, bald. They say he made the shot from 200 yards away, and this is all what I know at the time I'm filming this. It could all be wrong. It could all be misinformation for all I know, but they're saying he shot from a building, and it was 200 yards away. That's a pretty good shot, man. I mean, so was this guy former military? Is he asset. You know, we've heard of MK Ultra before and stuff like that, and how people have gotten involved. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens. We don't ever know the answers. Look at the Vegas shooter, right? No one still knows what happened there. There was so much weird stuff going on there. It's always like that. So we don't know anything about this guy. I imagine right now, if he is in custody, they are scrubbing his social media so nobody can talk about the things that he posted or said, because I'm sure it follows certain political ideologies. And let's talk about that. If you're celebrating this, if you're celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk because of what he did, you are a despicable human being that needs help. Okay? And I say that with all my honesty, and not to be mean, but you are despicable. Again, a father, 2 young children, and a husband with a young wife, a beautiful family, right? He always talked about the family and how important it was for this country to bring that family together. He, you know, people called him all kinds of horrible things only because he spoke the truth. He was not a fascist. He was not a Nazi. He was not a phobe or an ist or any of that. He spoke the truth. And people didn't like to hear the truth, and people still don't like to hear the truth, and it makes them so angry, especially when it goes against what they believe in. It's insane. So if you're one of those people celebrating this, I highly recommend you get some help. You know, go talk to a therapist. You won't be able to talk to a clergy because you're probably a freaking demon anyway, but, you know, go talk to a therapist, talk to a friend, talk to anybody outside of your little bubble of stupidity that you live in, and try maybe to, you know, show a little compassion for this guy. If we look, you want to talk about violence, and here's what really makes me sick. This is what really frosts my nuts right now, is you got these left-wing politicians and left-wing news people coming out saying, oh my goodness, this is so terrible. This never should have happened. You guys have been calling for this since 2020, 2016. Ever since the rise of MAGA and the whole MAGA movement, Donald Trump and all that, it's been escalating. It's been an escalating call to violence almost on a daily basis. Guys like Tim Walz, who was almost the vice president of this country, you know, talking about crap like that. And then look what happens. We get a transgender shooter in his state. You know, if you think these constant calls for violence, if you think dehumanizing a certain group of people based on their beliefs and what they stand for, dehumanizing them by calling them Nazis, literally Hitler, fascists, whatever, if you think that's not going to have an impact on people, especially if they're already mentally ill, weak in the minds, like so many of these people are that follow this ideology, if you think that's not going to have an impact on them and that's not going to call them to violence, well, just look at what's happening. Look at all the mass shootings that have been going on lately. What's the common thread between so many of them? And it's something that no one wants to talk about. Okay? Donald Trump wants to take away guns, they say, from transgenders and blah, 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 blah. And you know what? Even if that was the truth, even if that was what he wanted to do, I get it. You can't do that because gun rights are gun rights in this country. And I'm sorry, I don't, you know, they exist for a reason. They exist for a reason. They exist to protect yourself from a tyrannical government. Should everyone own a gun? Obviously not. There's people that just can't bear that responsibility. How do you determine that? Their mental health, whatever, certain things. I don't know. I don't know the answers to that. There are answers out there. There are ways to figure that out. But the fact of the matter is, most people that commit crimes with these guns don't have them legally anyway. They've either taken them from parents or, you know, in the case of most of these kids, stuff like that, they can buy them illegally. You can print them. You can 3D print them with a 3D printer now, for God's sake. There's so many ways to get guns. They're, you know, on the streets. It's just like drugs. Drugs are illegal. People are dying of fentanyl overdoses every day, you know. Because something's illegal doesn't mean it's not going to be there. If you take guns and you make them illegal, well, now all you've done is turn American citizens into criminals that want to protect themselves from bad people like this shooter, a bad government, you know, whatever. All you've done is take away their ability to protect themselves and their property. And then what happens? We've already seen the big cities and the way they're falling to crime. How Trump has had to bring the National Guard in, help clean up cities like Washington, and now I think he's trying to clean up Chicago and all that. It's astounding how anyone can think the left-wing ideology works in any way, shape, or form. These are cities that have been governed by Democrats for decades. And they keep voting in the same type of clown over and over again. The same clown that gives the same empty promise time and time again and never delivers. Why? Why would you do that? That's like going back to a cheating husband or wife over and over again. Oh, yeah, I won't do it again this time. This time it's going to be different, Oh, this time I'm not going to beat you, honey, if dinner's late, No, man. It's I see a lot of people say that liberalism is a mental illness, and I honestly believe that it itself is not it's not a mental illness on its own, but it attracts people that are mentally ill, because it does attract the crazy people, right? It attracts the people that believe they can have 37 genders and make up weird words to call themselves, and that they can, give kids drugs to keep them out of puberty, their own children, ruin their lives because they feel a certain way, or they want to score points with their liberal friends by saying, oh, look, little Johnny's now little Janie. It's despicable. It really is. I'm sorry. This touched deep. This hit home. If this man is caught, good. I'd rather he not get caught. I'd rather he just, I can't say what I'd rather. But if he's not caught and this tragedy goes unanswered, then basically we've going to be open season on everyone. Where do we stand in this country right now? Where do you stand? You support something like this? Do you think that it's okay to assassinate someone over their beliefs? He was not a man in political power. Assassinating him doesn't change anything as far as the government goes, right? He's not the president, he's not the mayor, he's not the governor, he's not any of that. He's not the Secretary of Defense. The man outside of politics who teaches young people critical thinking and makes them think, talks to them, debates them. He doesn't always change minds and all that, but I've seen a lot of times where people walk away from him going with a little look on their eye like, well, maybe I need to sit on this and think about it. The good man, he didn't deserve this. He didn't deserve this. And if this doesn't, if you think this is over, it's not over. I guarantee you that now. I think we hit the Rubicon right now, and that the death of Charlie Kirk is literally going to be a turning point in this country. Just like Turning Point USA was what he worked for there. I think this is going to be something that doesn't go unanswered. I think escalation is inevitable. Sorry that I feel that way. I know how humans are. I know how we are. It's very hard to de-escalate something, especially when it's as heated as this is. And there's nothing that can be said or done right now that's going to heal that wound that taking Charlie Kirk created. Nothing. There could be revenge. Is that going to help? No, revenge never helps. We all know this. And as much as I would like to see certain things happen, I can't voice that. And I am not a man of reaction. I'm a man of action. So I'm not the kind of guy that would jump up and say, oh, they did this, let me, you have to think about things. You have to process things and sit on them for a little bit. But not everybody's like that. I pray for my country. I've got people, friends that have differing ideologies than I do, family that has differing ideologies than I do. And it's, I don't try to change their mind. It's not my job. And quite honestly, you're not going to change anybody's mind. All you can do is try to make them think. And if you're watching this and you celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, look in the mirror and see the ghoul that you are and think to yourself, was that necessary? What if that was somebody else? What if that was somebody you cared about? You know, what if it was your father that was taken down, or your brother, or something like that? How would you feel seeing, you know, or somebody just, you know, one of your political idols, whatever you want to call them, you know, what if they were taken down like that and you saw this celebration? You don't ever see that in the opposite way. Not to say that it's every Democrat celebrating and every Republican never celebrates, no. But for the vast majority of it, you're going to see, go on Reddit, go on Twitter, Blue Sky, that toilet. You'll be disgusted. You will see the lowest human beings that ever existed in humanity. I mean, worse than the Neanderthals, these scumbags. You'll see them, and you're going to be like, wow, that's amazing. Anyways, let me know what you think down below. Do you think this is over? I think it's not. I think it's going to go unanswered, and, you know, it's not going to be retribution, retaliation in any way, shape, or form. You know, I don't see that. I think that's possible. I think Charlie was such a big person, such a loved person, beloved person, that somebody out there can do things in his name. Fortunate. Charlie wouldn't like that, you know, but it's inevitable at this point. So, yeah. Good job on you guys here. Keep up the good work. You guys are gonna push things so far that it's gonna destroy the country from within. But I'm just a dude that plays video games, so, you know, what do I know, right? Anyway, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Ring that bell for notifications. I'll see you guys next time. And until then, peace. Whatever.
911, what's your emergency?